A very good morning to you at home and to Emma Payton, Mark McAdam and Dave Reed. What a window it's been. What a 24 hours or so we could have in store. We're going to start with Everton and to a story we broke last night. We want to hear from you at home as well. Hashtag transfer talk. But that news, Emma, is that Anthony Gordon is staying.
He's staying at Everton after all of that, because we've been talking a lot about him over the past couple of weeks. We know he was the subject of a couple of really strong bids from Chelsea, but Frank Lampard, we heard a little bit of what he said there last night, but very strong in his stance that Anthony Gordon, he is staying at the football club. He will not be leaving this summer. Now, the Everton hierarchy, they've been pretty resolute, really, in their determination to keep him at Goodison Park. We understand that Lampard told the board back in June that, look, I don't want him to leave the club this summer. And look, he's got his wish after some really strong interest from Chelsea, amongst a whole load of other Premier League clubs, by the way. And if you look at his performances the last couple of games, I mean, this interest, it certainly hasn't distracted him, it hasn't affected him. If anything, you maybe say his value's gone up because he scored 2 goals in his last couple of games. So let's hear what Frank Lampard said last night.
Anthony's too important a player. I think he showed his worth in the last 2 games. We've got 2 days now to go, so what good would it do us to do anything with Anthony, you know? And on a bigger picture than that, he's our player who we've developed, and there's an affiliation with him and the fans and vice versa, and we're trying to do something here, and we know it's a process and it will take some time. I think he's very clear that from where we were last year, where we want to get to is a process. So can we trust in that? Can we build around the good players that we have, and can we add to that? That's where I'm coming from. And Anthony, clearly, because of the interest that's been in him, is because he's a top player, and that's why we're so keen to keep him.
So Gordon staying in. Mark, how important is he to Everton?
Vital. Emma said it there. He scored 2 goals this season in 2 games that they've drawn 1-1. If he hadn't have got those goals, they'd be in a very, very different picture right now when it comes to Premier League survival. I think he's the difference between Everton finishing in the bottom 3 and finishing perhaps mid-table, particularly when you've got the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin injured. He's the man that's going to score goals. He's the focal point, and he's the one player that those fans will identify with. It's simple. He is vital to Frank Lampard this season.
It's a lot of pressure for him, though, isn't it? You saying he's the difference between potentially going down and staying up, and for a player who has probably been criticised for his output over this summer, really, compared to what he did last season. He started the season really well, got those goals that have probably, what Emma, you say, has maybe even raised his importance to Everton's first team. So with the Dominic Calvert-Lewin injury, it's a lot of pressure for him to be the difference between staying up and not.
But then is there more pressure if he was at Chelsea and being a £60 million signing?
I think he would become a part of Chelsea as opposed to all eyes on Anthony Gordon like there will be at Everton this season. I think the fact that he's dealt with the pressure of the price tag and the speculation and the rumours about his future by putting in performance after performance so far early on in the season, I think that shows a lot about the character of the player. I also think the fact that Newcastle, Tottenham and Chelsea are all interested in him and have been over the course of this summer suggests actually they all see the same thing in him, and that's a really good player now, but someone that could be absolutely massive in years to come.
Well, Chelsea fans got in touch using hashtag transfer talk. Keep these coming in. He says, I'm glad Anthony isn't signing for us because we need a number 9, not a winger. So he's not saying a negative about Gordon. He's saying that's not the position that Chelsea need to strengthen. So, Emma, where does this leave Chelsea?
Yeah, I agree. It's not killer for them that they haven't got Anthony Gordon, because sometimes I looked at it and thought, well, where does he fit in all of this in terms of his style of play? They can't fit Callum Hudson-Odoi into the team. He's gone to Bayer Leverkusen. So you sort of wondered, well, where would Anthony Gordon fit? And I think it's a good thing that he's staying at Everton. He's so young as well. He's kind of like the jewel in their crown at the moment. And a big move will come down the line if that is kind of set for him in his future. So it's interesting looking at Chelsea because Hakim Ziyech started last night, and we've been talking about him throughout, you know, the window in the last few weeks, saying he looks set to be on his way to Ajax. So it's interesting to see what happens with him. But agree that, look, they need a goal scorer. The Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang interest, it's not over yet. There's no agreement in place at the moment. Reports suggesting there was a meeting yesterday. More meetings are going to take place this afternoon as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get a deal for a striker over the line over the next couple of days. Yeah,
the fee, though, with Anthony Gordon from Chelsea, so if he was to go from Everton to Chelsea, it was very high, and the people who've got in touch with us over the past few weeks, Everton fans have been saying, well, for that money, all right, fair enough, we don't want to lose him. So are you surprised that Everton have held out?
Not surprised. I mean, the fee was big that we talked about. I think Chelsea our information was that they were prepared to pay up to £60 million for Anthony Gordon. And for a club like Everton, who we know they're dealing with issues around FFP, we also know they want to reinvest into their squad as well. The fees seem to be something that, as you say, Everton fans getting in touch with us said that, oh, you know, that's probably a good price for us. Maybe we should be thinking about doing the deal for that.
Well, they were saying that 40 and 45 million.
But and what we've discussed on the show previously is, you know, is Anthony Gordon going to be worth that money again? We all know how fleeting sometimes these big money offers are for clubs from the so-called top six. But I think from Everton's point of view, they obviously think that actually, and it's kind of paid out really in the start to his season, that he actually might be worth more than that £60 million in 2 to 3 years' time. And Frank Lampard said himself, stick with me, Anthony, and I can develop you into some of those players that I've helped develop already in my managerial career, and perhaps take that next step a little bit later and further down the line.
I think you could get to a situation where in 2 years' time, or even at the end of this season, people will look back and go, 60 million was a bargain. You know, if he has the impact this season that he's had already at the start of the season, if he ends up with 15, 16 goals and 10 assists, that's worth more than 60 million for a player that's still got so many levels to go to.
Yeah, I mean that would be such a huge jump in his output. I mean, if he gets 10 goals this season, that's fantastic for his development and the upward curve that he's on.
I think the other thing as well with regards to Everton, they sold Richarlison quite early on in the window, and I think that would have played a factor in, you know, the Frank Lampard situation, the board's decision, that the finances. They've already sold a big player. They can't sell too many of those despite the desperate need of money, because they still have to have a squad that's competitive.
So Everton say they're keeping Gordon. Could anyone else come in?
Well, they're still after a forward, aren't they? We're speaking to Alan Myers this morning, who's kind of obviously across Everton and knows what he's talking about. But there are a number of names that are still linked to the club that we've been talking about throughout the window. One is Ben Brereton Diaz. We know that he's someone that they've looked at, although we do also know that Frank Lampard, he wants someone with Premier League experience. Cody Gakpo is a name that seems to have been linked to pretty much every Premier League club this transfer window. Manchester United, the biggest of the lot. Southampton yesterday had a bid turned down. Linked to Everton as well. We don't have anything concrete on that at the moment. They've also been linked to the Coventry striker Victor Gyökeres as well. But again, he doesn't have that top-level experience that Frank Lampard is actually after. We think Idrissa Gueye is going to happen today, by the way. We're just waiting on announcement for that one. They are still hoping as well that they can get Kudus from Ajax, who is a goal-scoring midfielder, in the door as well before that transfer deadline. A number of players could leave Everton as well, leave Goodison Park before that deadline. There is Gomez, Alan, Rondon as well. Good news for Everton is that Dominic Calvert-Lewin could be back for the Arsenal game, so that is a positive. Also, Armando Broja, of course, who has been linked to Everton throughout the window. So, interesting to see what happens with that.
And Neil Maupay as well, who's actually signed, but we saw Frank's frustration yesterday that because of the bank holiday, they've not been able to get him involved.